I thought I'd always be alone, until my friends introduced me to someone who saw me differently. I've always hated mirrors, not because I'm vain or insecure, but because they tell the truth too clearly. Every morning, that same face stares back at me, crooked nose, acne scars, an uneven jawline that even puberty forgot to finish shaping. I used to hope I'd grow into it. I didn't. I'm 32 now, and I've accepted it. I'm not one of the lucky ones. When people say, everyone is beautiful in their own way, I just smile politely, because I know that's what people say when they're afraid to tell the truth. I'm not angry about it anymore, just tired. My friends, however, refuse to accept my peace with loneliness. Come on, man, you just haven't met the right girl, says Mark, the kind of guy who could smile his way out of a speeding ticket. His girlfriend, Alina, always nods enthusiastically beside him, as if love is something you can just go out and buy like groceries. They don't understand that for me, dating isn't just hard, it's humiliating. I tried the apps once. One date, the girl walked in, saw me, and I could see the disappointment freeze her face before she even sat down. She stayed for 15 minutes, polite conversation, fake laughter, the occasional glance at her phone. Then she remembered an emergency and left. I deleted the app that night. Since then, I've told everyone I'm fine being alone. And in a way, I am. I have a decent job as an IT support guy. My small apartment, my books, my cat, Pixel. I don't need anyone to tell me my worth. But sometimes, when I come home from work and there's no sound except the soft clicking of pixels, paws on the floor, I wonder if I've mistaken comfort for happiness. It all started to change one Friday evening at Mark's place. We were playing cards, drinking cheap beer, talking nonsense until Alina cleared her throat and said, "So, we've been thinking." I groaned immediately. "Please don't start." "No. Listen," Mark said, raising his hands like I was some kind of wild animal about to bolt. "We know this girl. Her name's Emily. She's really sweet. We think you two would actually get along." "I'm not doing this again," I said. "I told you. I'm done with dating." "She's not like the others," Alina insisted. "She's quiet, smart, loves cats, and she doesn't judge people by appearances." I laughed bitterly. "That's what people say before they see me." Mark leaned forward. "Just one dinner. If it goes bad, I'll never bring it up again." I wanted to say no. I really did. But then Alina gave me this soft, pleading smile, the kind that makes you feel like refusing would be an act of cruelty. So, against my better judgment, I agreed. "Fine. One dinner. That's it." They both grinned like matchmakers in a rom-com. But that night, as I brushed my teeth and caught my reflection in the mirror, the doubt crept back in. What was I doing? I already knew how this would end. Awkward silence. Forced kindness. The quiet pity that always follows. Still, a small, stubborn part of me, the part that hadn't completely given up, whispered, "What if this time is different?" The following week felt like waiting for an exam I hadn't studied for. I overthought everything. What to wear, what to say, how to hide the worst angles of my face. I even Googled how to look confident when you're ugly. The answers were useless. Smile more. Be yourself. Friday came too soon. Emily had agreed to meet at a small Italian restaurant downtown. I arrived 10 minutes early, because I always do. The waiter gave me a polite nod and led me to a table near the window. I checked my phone 3 times before I saw her walk in. She wasn't what I expected. Not in a bad way, just different. She wasn't one of those perfect, polished girls like in movies. She had messy brown hair tied into a loose bun, glasses slightly crooked on her nose, and a nervous smile that looked real. "Hi," she said, approaching the table. "You must be Daniel." Her voice was soft but steady, and somehow, for the first time in years, I didn't feel like prey under a microscope. Emily sat down, carefully placing her bag on the floor beside her. For a moment, there was that familiar awkward silence, the one that usually kills dates before they start. But then she smiled again, and something about it wasn't polite or forced. It was warm. "You look nervous," she said. I froze, halfway through unfolding my napkin. "Is it that obvious?" She laughed softly. "A little. But don't worry. So am I." That disarmed me completely. I didn't know how to respond to honesty like that. Usually, people tried to fill the air with small talk, pretending everything was fine. Emily didn't pretend. She just was. We ordered pasta for her, lasagna for me, and slowly, conversation began to flow. She told me she was a freelance illustrator, working mostly from home. She loved fantasy books, had a cat named Nimbus, because she looks like a tiny cloud, she explained, and had recently moved to the city after a bad breakup. When she said that, I tensed a little. A bad breakup usually meant an ex who still haunted her mind. But she didn't sound bitter. More like someone who had healed, mostly. What about you? She asked. I hesitated. Nothing that interesting. I work in IT. Mostly fixing what other people break. She smiled. So, a modern-day hero. I laughed, genuinely. That's one way to put it. For the next hour, something strange happened. The longer we talked, the less I thought about how I looked. Her eyes didn't dart away. Her smile didn't fade when I spoke. She laughed at my dry jokes, asked thoughtful questions, and actually listened. It was unsettling, in the best possible way. Halfway through dessert, she said something that hit me hard. You know, I'm glad Alina convinced me to come. I almost said no. I blinked. You? Almost didn't. She stirred her spoon through her tiramisu. Blind dates usually make me anxious. I've had a few that were disasters. But Alina said you were different, kind, funny, quiet in a good way. That caught me off guard. I wasn't used to being described as anything good. Well, I said slowly, I guess I should thank her for overselling me. Emily smiled. If anything, she undersold you. For a second, I thought she was joking, but her expression didn't change. She meant it, and something cracked inside me then, a small, fragile part that I'd built up for years to protect myself. I didn't know whether to be grateful or terrified. After dinner, I offered to walk her home. She hesitated for just a moment before nodding. The air outside was cool, the streets glowing under yellow street lights. We walked side by side in silence, the kind that wasn't uncomfortable, just gentle. She told me more about her art, how she used to draw people but stopped after her ex, called her weirdly obsessed with faces. Now she mostly painted landscapes. I miss it, though, she admitted. Drawing people. It's like capturing a story that words can't tell. That's poetic, I said quietly. She smiled at me. Maybe one day I'll draw you. I laughed awkwardly. Trust me, that'd ruin your portfolio. Her expression softened. You really don't see yourself clearly, do you? That stopped me dead. I looked at her, unsure how to respond. I see clearly enough, I muttered. She shook her head gently. No, you see what other people made you believe. That's not the same thing. We stood there under the streetlight, the city humming softly around us. I didn't know how to handle the way she looked at me. Not with pity, not with sympathy, but with something else entirely. Something real. When we reached her apartment building, she turned to me. Thank you for tonight, she said. I had a really nice time. Me too. I managed. Then she did something no one had done in years. She hugged me. Not a polite, distant hug. A real one. Warm, human. When she pulled away, I could still feel her warmth on my skin. Can I see you again? I asked before I could stop myself. Her eyes lit up. I'd like that. She smiled one last time and disappeared inside. On the way home, I felt something strange. A weight lifting, just a little. For years, I had built my identity around being unwanted, unlovable. And in one evening, a girl with messy hair and crooked glasses had shaken that belief. When I got home, Pixel jumped on the couch beside me. I sat there in the dark, staring at my reflection in the black screen of the TV. For once, I didn't hate what I saw. For the next few weeks, Emily and I saw each other almost every other day. Coffee on Sundays, movies on Thursdays, long walks on rainy evenings where the world felt small and safe. Every time she smiled at me, something inside me thought a little more. I started to think maybe, just maybe, I could be one of those people who didn't have to live behind apologies and self-deprecation. But old habits die hard. Whenever we went out in public, I could feel the stares. Maybe they weren't even real. Maybe I just imagined them. But I'd catch someone glancing our way, and my chest would tighten. I'd think, they're wondering why she's with me. One evening, we were at a small outdoor cafe. She was telling me a story about her art clients. Something about a guy who wanted her to paint his cat as a medieval knight. And I found myself not listening. Instead, I was watching the waiter. He was tall, sharp-featured, the kind of man people describe as handsome without thinking. And he was smiling at her, a little too long, a little too warmly. My stomach turned. She noticed. You okay? I forced a smile. Yeah, just tired. But she saw through me. She always did. Later, as we walked back to her place, she stopped suddenly. Daniel, she said quietly, do you really think I don't notice when you start to disappear into yourself? I looked away. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. Her voice wasn't angry, just sad. You keep waiting for me to wake up one day and realize I could do better. You think this is a joke, or pity, or temporary. I didn't answer, because she was right. She sighed. You don't have to believe you're beautiful, Daniel, but you have to believe you're enough. Because I do. That hit harder than I expected. It's easy to reject compliments from strangers. It's impossible when someone says it like they mean it. And you want so badly to believe them. A week later, she invited me to her apartment for the first time. It was cozy, filled with half-finished sketches, paintbrushes and jars, books stacked everywhere. A small gray cat peeked out from under the couch Nimbus. I'd never been good in other people's spaces. I always felt like I didn't belong. But here, surrounded by her quiet chaos, I felt safe. She handed me a mug of tea and sat cross-legged on the floor beside me. I have to show you something, she said, her eyes shining. She pulled out a sketchbook and opened it. Inside were dozens of portraits, all of me. Some were quick sketches, others detailed charcoal drawings. Me sitting in the cafe, me laughing, me petting Pixel from a photo she'd seen, me just existing. I froze. I hope it's not weird, she said quickly. It's just, you have the kind of face that tells stories. I couldn't help it. Weird wasn't the word. Terrifying, maybe, intimate, vulnerable. No one had ever looked at me long enough to want to capture me. I stared at one particular drawing, my eyes half shaded. Looking downward, the faintest hint of a smile. It was hauntingly accurate, but somehow, softer, kinder. You make me look. I started, but the words stuck. Human, she finished. I nodded. She smiled. That's what you are. And for the first time, I believed her. We spent the evening talking about art, life, and fears we never told anyone. She confessed she used to hate her body, said her ex had made her feel like she had to earn affection. I told her about the years I spent avoiding mirrors, about every date that ended with pity in someone's eyes. By midnight, we were lying on the couch, her head on my chest, her cat sleeping at our feet. For a moment, I forgot I was supposed to be ashamed of being seen. But of course, happiness never comes without a test. A few days later, Mark called. Dude, I saw Emily's art on her Insta. That stuff is incredible. I smiled. Yeah, she's amazing. Then he hesitated. Did you see the comments? My stomach dropped. I opened her page, and there it was. A recent post. One of my portraits. The caption read, "Beauty is not always visible to the eye." The comments were full of strangers debating whether I was her boyfriend, her brother, or a model for a project. But a few were cruel. Why would she draw someone like that? This has to be a joke. Art or pity? My throat tightened. I didn't blame her. She hadn't written my name. But I saw myself in those sketches. Everyone did. When Emily called later, cheerful and unaware, I couldn't bring myself to answer. I spent that night staring at the ceiling. The old voice in my head whispering again, see? You were right all along. You don't belong in her world. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the comments, words that cut deeper than they should have. It wasn't the cruelty itself. I'd heard worse. It was the reminder that the world still saw me exactly the way I feared, as something less than human. By morning, I convinced myself that Emily deserved better, that I was doing her a favor by walking away before people started judging her for being with me. So, when she called again, I finally answered. Hey, she said, her voice bright. I was starting to worry. We need to talk. That sentence changed everything. I could almost hear her smile fading on the other end. We met that evening at the park near her apartment. The air smelled like rain, and the clouds hung low over the city. She walked up slowly, her face tense. What's going on? I didn't look at her. I saw the post. Her brow furrowed. The sketch? Daniel, I didn't even tag you. It doesn't matter, I said. Everyone knows it's me. So what? She asked softly. It's art. It's beautiful. Not to them, my voice cracked. You saw the comments, right? They were laughing at me. Her eyes filled with confusion and something like pain. You think I care what strangers say? It's not about you, Emily. It's about us. I don't want you getting dragged down because of me. She took a step closer. You're doing it again, she whispered. You're building a wall and calling it protection. I finally looked at her. Maybe that's all I know how to do. She shook her head, tears glinting in her eyes. You think you're being noble, but you're just scared. You'd rather be lonely than risk being loved. Her words hit harder than the comments ever could. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, but I couldn't, because she wasn't. We stood in silence for a long time, the rain starting to fall around us. Finally, she said, I can't make you love yourself, Daniel. I can only show you how I see you. Then she turned and walked away. I didn't try to stop her. When I got home, the apartment felt colder than usual. Pixel sat on the couch, watching me with those curious, unblinking eyes, the only creature that never cared what I looked like. I sat down, opened my phone again, and scrolled through the hateful comments. Each one felt like confirmation of everything I believed my whole life. But then, between the cruelty, one comment stood out. I don't know who he is, but there's something peaceful in his expression. like someone who's learned to survive. I read it over and over. Just one voice, small, buried beneath the noise. But it was enough to crack something open again. Maybe not everyone saw what I saw. Maybe Emily was right. Maybe I'd been the cruelest one all along. To myself. A few days passed before I worked up the courage to see her again. I found her at her favorite cafe, sitting by the window with her sketchbook. She looked up when I walked in, her eyes guarded. "Hey," I said quietly. "Hi, can I sit?" She hesitated, then nodded. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us felt heavy but not broken, just waiting. "I was wrong," I said finally. "I thought I was protecting you. But really, I was just protecting my fear." She said nothing, just watched me, tears beginning to form again. "I don't know how to stop seeing myself the way I always have," I continued. "But I want to try. With you. If you'll still let me." Her lips trembled into a faint smile. "You really are an idiot. You know that." I laughed weakly. "Yeah, a slow learner." Then she reached across the table and took my hand. "You don't have to be perfect, Daniel. You just have to stay." And I did. Months later, Emily held her first small art exhibit. She insisted I come, even though the idea terrified me. The gallery was modest. White walls, soft light, paintings that told quiet stories. One section was dedicated to a series called The Human Shape of Hope. It was all me, not in the literal sense, but through moments she captured, my hands holding pixel, my reflection in a window, my smile half hidden behind a coffee mug. People walked through and murmured softly, but this time, I didn't care what they said, because beside me, Emily squeezed my hand, a silent reminder that being seen wasn't the same as being judged. At the end of the night, a young woman approached her. "Your portraits feel honest," she said, "like they see people the way they really are." Emily smiled and looked at me. "That's the goal." When we got home that night, she kissed me and whispered, "You still think you're not worth looking at?" I smiled. Maybe I'm starting to believe otherwise. I still have bad days. I still avoid mirrors sometimes. But now, when I catch my reflection, I see something different. Not beauty, not perfection, just life. The kind of life that fought to exist, even when it didn't feel worthy. I used to think being loved would fix me. It didn't. It just gave me permission to start fixing myself. And that, I think, is what love really is, not a cure, but a mirror that shows you who you've been afraid to become.